Three paths walked as one, flows the hidden waters through the mist, knowledge, power, self-revelation.
Cool. All right. Yes, Kushites. Do I have your permission to teach?
Yes.
Come on, energies. Yeah, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you coming through, coming to listen to the lessons and that, taking part in something that has been in running for a long time. And now to move this forward. School of thought doesn't need a building, just a like-minded, ready to learn and explore. That's the school. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So, what I was going to talk about today. Also, we just watched two of the Matrix films. The whole point of entwining that into what we're doing here is we're approaching the age and an agenda where AI, transhumanism is where things are heading to, where they're pushing the consciousness to slightly start to accept and begin to integrate into your lives. You cannot lose sight of who and what you are. Knowledge of self at this period of time is highly critical, because you'll literally get lost in the code or lost in the source by not having an awareness of your true nature, which is your physical self and your non-physical self, and how those two things interrelate and combine to bring about the true nature and nature of a person, which is to be and become divine. So the whole point of existence is to evolve into the true understanding of who and what you are, which is a fragment of the supreme divine source. All right. Now, the Matrix. The reason why I chose the Matrix film is that film. Their work will be there and doing so. The messages in which they were preparing you to get used to in terms of the role that technology is playing in your lives, and start beginning to show that element of integration with the human form and mechanics. Well, in between that is consciousness. Between the organic world and inorganic world is that level of consciousness. And in that film, it's the first time they really showed you how they're beginning to play around with your perception of reality and beginning to show some of the fundamental laws that make up the reality that we live in. You know? And in there is codes to how you can overcome it. It's quite simple. It's constantly replayed in front of your face in the whole film, without actually ever being told. And it's done through a progenitor that isn't the one people usually focus on. And that also helps with understanding the key and the change I had to combat this thing. Cool. So to start with, we need to really understand what a matrix is. Now I'm going to show something here, a little bit of mathematics. So in mathematics, you draw this 1 0 0 1. This, that would be a matrix. What that is a pair of parentheses with codes in it that represent x axis and y axis. Matrix is a mathematical tool to help show linear progression of values. So it has an input code, and then it shows, based on these input codes, this is what happens with this particular quantity in terms of direction and magnitude. So what that means is each matrix here is made up of what's known as a vector. A vector is a quantity that has a direction and magnitude. Direction being on the x-axis, magnitude being on the y. So the 1 0 would represent 1 point on the x-axis, none on the y. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's the direction and that's the magnitude. So that would be a vector. And then you combine that with another vector, which would relate to what happens on the y-axis, which is the reverse. Nothing on the x-axis, 1 on the y-axis, which would be this point here. You understand? And it's how you move from this point to this point It's what you use a matrix for. Make sense? So when we're talking about a matrix being used for linear progression, what you're talking about is how you code thought. Because our brain is linear thinking, it is electric. We think linearly. So you encode a matrix with a set of vectors which give a magnitude and direction of a particular quantity, which can be coded as thought patterns. So you'll notice here, when you see the matrix film, you see the load of 0 and 1s on the screen. Those are loads of vectors, which are giving instruction points about every single particular quantity in reality has a direction and a magnitude in a given situation or environment. You begin to scintillate that sim, you begin to scintillate reality. Make sense? Cool. Now what's interesting is when you understand that the word matrix actually means womb. Matrix means womb, and it's funny how when you draw the parentheses, this is the womb. But what the womb requires is code, which is your magnitude and direction. That code is the masculine element.
So matrix means womb or room.
Womb. Yeah, womb. Yeah, mother matrix, matrix. Understand? The code gives the pattern or direction to what's going on in the matrix. This represents masculine and feminine energy, masculine and feminine principles. The feminine principle is the principle that carries the womb. She's the one that increases in magnitude what you provide it. Us on the other hand, we provide the pattern or direction of matter. That's why we are the paternal parent. Because as the paternal, we provide the pattern to matter. So we give the matrix matter a code of which direction to go in which to take that magnitude. When you combine the two, it's how you begin to create coded life. So even hidden in the basic mathematics of what a matrix is and vectors relates to universal law, the law of gender, the law of polarity, law of correspondence, where these things continually has to oscillate with one another. We're going now. Womb. Okay. Think about the Matrix film now. Remember, we're talking about womb. In the first film, it showed you and it said to you that human beings were no longer born. They're now being grown in fields. What they have done is replace the womb. Human beings are no longer being born through the natural organic womb, the womb that has been created by matrix and code and vectors, such that you can biologically, physically disintegrate and regrow a human being. But the womb of the mind is the one that cannot be truly replicated. Make sense? Cool. Okay. Let me get rid of this. Because I want to show you how, by replacing the womb, or the womb being hidden, is at the, not only is at the beginning of the Bible, but is the running theme of what the Matrix is about in terms of replacing the womb. Because hidden in the Matrix is the mother, which is the whole point of why you get Morpheus and why you get Neo, the family. I'll show you. So womb. Matrix. Nice. In the beginning of the Bible, after God has made light and dark and formed the land, whatever, it then said, let us create man in our image. I've always posted as to the use of us. What do you mean us, right? And when you dig a little deeper, you understand that us is talking about the Elohim, which is the seven visible orbs in the sky, which play a role in how your personality enters into the physical form. However, when we're talking about the womb, as above, so below, as within, so without, nothing comes into the physical world without a womb. So if you're talking about a creator God, who would you be asking to create something? Something that has a womb. What is hidden in that verse is who the hell is God talking to when he's asking about let's us? The only way in which you can create life is if you have that feminine energy, that mother matrix, in order to bring something forth. What's hidden in that text is the feminine expression or a feminine role in creation. The creator God, masculine, had to go with the instruction and make a request in order to enter the gate, in order to enter the womb, in order to bring forth and create.
Deep.
You feel me?
Yeah, that's deep.
You skip right past it. It's about taking time to pause and think about what's hidden behind that text. What's left out is the other half of the story. Who are you asking to create? Think of us down here. When God ain't a rapist. We don't take. We have to ask and make a request. Let us create, babes. And she has to be in her right timing, in her right cycle, in order to give you that permission to enter, in order to create. Your children are your legacy. The children as men are made in your image, literally, because you provide the pattern to the DNA. So you are the original thought process. You are the linear progression that happens within the matrix. The matrix holds all the different codes and vectors of where this piece of thought needs to go in order to create. So you're created in his image because it's using the masculine principle. It's showing you that the masculine principle is what is used to create physical design. The woman builds the physical design, but the architect, who was the architect in Reloaded? Man, whitest of white males. The architect, in all white and all light, because he represents manifested form. He's the master of manifested form. There's nothing in the physical universe that is outside of his control. Hence his ability to create all the vector codes required to create a whole reality to subdue just the consciousness of organic human beings. Master coder, master mathematician. Everything is precise mathematics, as you heard him say in the film, right? That's the masculine eminent trying to replace the womb with pure logic and mathematics. But he fails because it produces an anomaly, because it's an imbalance of a universal equation. Yes, logic and mathematics is 100% required. It is the straight line of which we measure things. But there's another element to nature, which is the circle, which represents holistic thought. It's feminine in nature. It's chaotic in terms of it can process multiple permutations of one event at the same time simultaneously. It doesn't have to collapse one particular event and move in that one space and time to move forward. It's before creation. I forgot why I haven't gone down on that tangent. Why did I go there? The architect. That was it. He said in the film, the answer to the equation was stumbled upon by a lesser mind, and then he corrected himself and he said a mind that was more able to comprehend basically human consciousness, human condition, or human heart. The heart is where the soul is, because the first thing to form in your mother's womb, when you're in your mother's womb, is your heart in the first 4 weeks. The first thing to form in the womb, the first physical part of you that forms is the heart. That is the point at which the soul enters into the physical body. The soul is represented as being in terms of where the heart is, it's feminine in nature. It's that intuition, it's that feeling. It's not necessarily based on logic. It's being able to perceive things that are behind the visible veil of things. Just have a premonition to be sometimes be before space and time in terms of processing information. You know, with me, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason why this program was able to resolve the situation is because this program understood that there's an element to consciousness that allows us choice. There's an element of us where we feel like if we don't feel like we're not choosing this particular reality, there's an element of us that rebels. This is the one that rebels in the heaven that's created for it. I don't want this. I'm not bowing down to these lot. This is fake. This is how Lucifer fell. This is a story of how Lucifer fell out of heaven because he's like, I'm not bowing to this creation thing. This is a blasphemy to the true nature of what we are. So he rebelled, or she rebelled against it. Lucifer's feminine, is related to Venus. So she rebelled against false creation, false feminine nature, trying to replace the true womb. What's this? This is fake. You made a mimic copy of what your mother made and then tried to make something for yourself and proclaims that all must bow down to your creation when we were before. There were ones before you. Oh, jealous God. You can only be jealous of something if something is somehow above you. So if you are a jealous God, you're an indication that you are subordinate to something. That is the architect. Because he had to reconcile with the teachings of the mother, which is where choice comes from, which is the heart, which is intuition, which is that soul fire. And how the matrix was able to be created, he had to factor in what he considers this mistake. But this mistake is the same reason why he classes it as a mistake is the same way one man's God, the God of your enemy is your devil. The God of your enemy becomes your devil in terms of war, combat, propaganda, philosophy. If you're fighting against the other side that wear a different color to you, that represents their God, that God becomes the devil to you. Making sense? Cool. Again, that tangent, why did I go to that point? Yeah, the reason why I classifies it as a mistake. It's the thing that he can't control. It's the thing that he cannot tame. It is the wild beast. It's the one who bears the mark of the beast, the rebel. You classify it as a beast because it's something that you cannot contain. It's the wild energy. It's representing the chaotic melanin element in human beings. The dark substance which brings forth life cannot be contained. Melanin is a energy transducer. It takes energy from one form into another form and allows things to exist in two places at one time. So at the minute you try to observe it, it changes its form. Do you understand? This is what chaos is that cannot be reconciled for in mathematical equations. So the one is an anomaly that the architect constantly has to face and reconcile against. This is man having to come up against himself and realize that there comes a point where you must submit because your line of thinking doesn't cover the whole circle, doesn't get the full picture. And the fact that you try to violate natural law and manufacture a womb that's outside of organic, natural, universal law, which is already perfect. Anything that you make is going to be an imperfection because it is your ego that prevents you from submitting to universal natural law. Now, the reason why that is important is because this leads us on to Neo. I hope most of you have seen that's one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? Cool. The word ego means one. So Neo is representative of the ego. He's the hero. He's the one on the front line. But it's not ego in the sense of, oh shit, look at that. Burn off, darkness. Mad. Neo, one.
It's not ego in the sense of
It's not ego in the sense of, look at me, proud. The ego is what you require to get, is where your willpower is stored. Your willpower is how anything gets done in this reality. How anything gets done for yourself. You must have the will to get up out of the chair. Some things are easier to fire than others. Lifting a certain weight, a type of on a bench requires practice, but if you have the will, you will eventually be able to lift that particular weight. The effort may be different, but ultimately the mechanic is the same. The willpower is the core of what drives us forward. That's why it's typically shown to be a masculine energy. Because a masculine energy is one that wants to move from point A to point B. We are very direct. We want to expand and go out into the world. We are problem solvers. So it's meeting challenges head on. It's that kind of testosterone, upright standing energy. Let's go forward and face it. Which is why the hero always has an ego. And when the ego is not kept in check, the hero becomes the villain. So that's who Neo is. I want to jump to Trinity because I also want to show you how ego, hero, Christ comes into play. Trinity. Neo means one. Neo in Trinity. Why is 13 important? 13 is the Christ number. 12 disciples, one son. 12 constellations, one sun in the middle. The symbol for Ra. Second on the dot. One sun, 12 disciples. 12 months of the year, 12 signs of the zodiac. 12 powers or personalities in man. All of them combined into one singular point. One who balances the cross. It's Christ. That is the representation of the number 13. So the code, when you're seeing Neo and Trinity all the time, and they're constantly doing everything together, is because something, and I say something or someone, is becoming Christ. Awakening, becoming an anointed. Everything is pushed through Neo and Trinity's connection, the 1 and the 3. Two combined, masculine and feminine, represent Christ. That's also important to note. And Christ is not masculine. Christ is not feminine. It's one who has balanced the cross, balanced the polarities. Because it says, man and woman made he them. He made them both. This means that God in itself, the supreme creative force, is neither polarity. It is both. The fact that we have duality down here requires us, that's why it requires us to have relationships. So we can connect with the other half to become one again, or to become whole. In order for the matrix to complete and to break, Trinity and Neo had to become one. But not to produce children, but to stop the cycle. And if you've watched the fourth one, have any of you here watched the fourth one? So if you watch, okay, so there might be some spoiler alerts, but it's not going to be so much that it's going to mash up your thing and whatever. But you understand when them two, they were like this. And that was literally what was keeping the illusion alive. Was that gap or that space in between of keeping man and woman separate. That is the key that they're turning to unlock this AI transhumanism agenda. You have to separate which naturally wants to come together and be one and shoot off into the divine. You have to keep man and woman separate. What's running on social media every 5 minutes? Man and woman war. And it's being translated as woke speech, and yeah, he said something sick, or yeah, she said something sick, or men need to know this in 2020. AI is already working. It's already programming our vectors, the magnitude and direction with which we give our attention. It's how they can code your mind. Because that's thought. Your attention is an energy. Go on. Your attention is an energy. So where you send it or where you spend it can be reprogrammed by suggestion. And that's why they've now got an algorithm that can now predict and show you and spit out what they're going to spit out. They've got the matrix and the vectors already. But I'm studying you. I'm keeping you lot separate. I can study you separate. There's another missing piece of the puzzle though. And this is where my original perspective on the matrix comes in. That's all making sense so far, yeah? Cool. Morpheus. Now, when we was watching it, we all said like Morpheus was the maddest character. Like Morpheus has got the most swag, or the fact that Morpheus wasn't Lawrence Fishburne in the final one was like a big. I mean, it had an impact on the thing, right? It's very interesting because your subconscious mind and your spirit is picking up on something you may not realize. For me, the Matrix isn't nothing to do with Neo.
Nothing to do with Neo.
Nothing to do with Neo. It's all about Morpheus. For me. Morpheus is the true progenitor of the Matrix story. Neo is the consequence of him. Trinity is the consequence of him. The whole mission, the whole ethos, or what Matrix is based on, is a consequence of him. At every key moment and key junction in the Matrix film, what do we have? A speech from Morpheus. First time Neo meets him. Hello, Neo. Lightning flash. Turn around there. Hello, Neo. Moves him forward with the taking of the pills. Then when it's time for him to get used to the Matrix, we've got another Morpheus lecture with the jumping. Do you understand? When it's time to see the Oracle, Morpheus. Even flipping forward to the second film, when they're making the plan to go and bomb the power plant, just before they go and do it, what do we have? A monologue from Morpheus. I don't see providence. I don't see coincidence. I see providence. 3 paths, 3 objectives, 3. The Trinity, the womb. The Matrix is about the womb, about trying to replace the womb. But I haven't nailed down in the Morpheus bit. The reason why that is important, remember I said to you as well, when he was, when they were in Zion and they needed some encouragement because they knew that machines were digging, you got another speech from Morpheus, okay? And at the end of his speech, the last words he said before he turned around was what? Sweet dreams. If you don't know mythology and you don't know the science, they're just throwing shit at you. Morpheus from Greek mythology is the god of dreams. God of sleep. Spelling is terrible. God of sleep, also known as the messenger. Messenger of the gods. Now you understand what the name Morpheus means. Now you observe his character in the film. Now take into account that the first couple of scenes in the Matrix after the Trinity thing involving Neo is Morpheus calling him on the phone. So I've been looking for you. He's the beginning of all things in the way the film is running, because the Matrix is a dream. Morpheus is the agent of which you change the matrix. Morpheus, to morph, to change form, to revolutionize. Which where you got reloaded and you got the revolutions. It's all driven by him. Because remember when I said the hidden mother principle of creation? When she realized she's been duped out of her birthright, in terms of her womb being taken to create something and then being expected to bow down to it. Hell no, you must be crazy, I'm out of it. So you then became the fallen one. And your essence was trapped down in man. Which is the we're talking about the element or the code that comes from pre-creation, from the divine mother, from the divine womb. To make sense? Yeah, from the divine mother, from the divine womb. There's an essence that was trapped down here when the light bearer or Venus rebelled against the created heaven, against the heaven of the creator. That essence that was trapped down in here is what's known as melanin. It's chaos, because it comes from the primordial, it comes from before creation. Hence why it's called the mark of the beast, because it cannot be detained, it cannot be controlled. It is not of this world, otherworldly, because it's before the creation of this matrix. It's before the work of the architect, and a piece of the it is the exponent, it is the remainder, it is the thing that he cannot reconcile in his equation. Why do you think they all wear black? Because it's representative of melanin in the system. And it fades to black and disappears. The minute you observe it, it swaps and changes into something else. You can put all the agents on him. All of a sudden he bends reality and flies up into the sky. He takes up a pole and uses it like a golf club. He's bending the vectors because he is a reflection of Morpheus. Every time you hear Morpheus and Morpheus, as well as it's Neo circling around Trinity, it's like a three-body problem. You've also got Morpheus circling around the both of them, because this is it. Neo. I'm just gonna put 3. That's Trinity. Morph. The master of change. The master of changing form between two dualities, masculine and feminine. Neo and Trinity must come together to be the 13, to be Christ, to get back up here, to elevate into the messenger of the God. Who do they call Muhammad? The messenger. Hermes Trismegistus, the messenger. Morpheus, the messenger, because it's of dreams. How you break the code is you continue to be creative, you continue to use your imagination to have dreams. It was the belief of Morpheus that drove the dream. His belief in his belief in the dream produced the anomaly. His belief in the dream produced the anomaly. It's just the foxes. So in his producing his anomaly, because he's already prepared the womb. Trinity was there before him. Trinity was looking for him with Morpheus. He had his womb, his feminine thought, his feeling of something ain't right. I've got this premonition, this vision, I'm gonna find the one. That's feminine nature. Who did he get it from? Oracle. Who's a woman?